Oh, I have to make sure I say Morbido. You spelled it Morbido. It's Morbido.
Is it?
Yeah.
Morbido.
Morbido.
See, that's what happens when you grow up without an internet and you just hear what you think.
Well, I watched with subtitles, so.
Oh, I can't. I can't. It's so distracting. I just end up reading.
It's like, it's got to be like also a Gen Z thing, right? Because he's always watching with subtitles. He can hear. He has great hearing, as a matter of fact, but he chooses to have subtitles. We always have to turn it off, but I'm too lazy. So.
Oh, I can't. It just wrecks the experience for me. I mean, unless it's like a foreign language film and I can't understand what they're saying, then that's a different thing. But I like to watch a performance.
I'll watch subtitles over dubbed. I hate dubbed movies. It's the worst.
No, it wrecks it.
It's just stupid.
MLVC.
Excuse me, but I'm singing in one key and you're singing in another.
Poor is the man whose pleasures depend on the permission of another.
Open the door now and suffocate. Just give me a fan.
I don't trust any man who hasn't kissed another man.
I'm waiting.
All right, people, it's time to get your dancing shoes on. You're listening to MLVC. It's all Madonna, all the time.
Welcome to the party, bitches.
Hey, everybody. It's Ben.
Hey, everybody. It's Liberty.
And hey, everybody, it's Stefan. Welcome to another episode of MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna, Louise, Veronica, Joni. I don't know why I just sang that.
Caccioni.
I think I say it so many times. I always try to like reinvent how I say it. And I'm like, no, that is the last time I'll ever say it like that. Anyway, it's another edition of our Madonna Summer Movie Series. Last month, we rewatched Dick Tracy. And if you were following us on Instagram, you'll know that we got our booties slapped with a hanky-panky for saying Dick one too many times. So thankfully, this month's movie does not have a salacious title. The next movie we're reviewing is the 1992 baseball comedy drama, A League of Their Own.
Yes, and A League of Their Own is a 1992 movie directed by Penny Marshall, starring Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, Lori Petty, Rosie O'Donnell, and of course, our girl Madonna. A League of Their Own was a critical and commercial success, grossing over $132.4 million worldwide and garnering acclaim for Marshall's direction and the performances of its ensemble cast. In 2012, the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
So true. And a wonderfully brunette Madonna portrayed Mae Morbido, center fielder, leadoff batter in the lineup. She was part of an amazing ensemble cast, and besides acting, Mother contributed musically to the movie with her number one song, This Used to Be My Playground, which was produced with Shep Pettibone while they were finishing up the recording of the Erotica album.
Oh, Liberty,
I know,
can we?
good
Do
time.
you have a voice tonight? Or are we going to hear a little appearance of This Used to Be My Playground at some point?
We may hear that. Yes, I will always find my voice for Madonna. Absolutely.
Oh,
She'll teach you how to.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Well, I think it's, time to go Peaches. Let's talk about the movie. Overall, it's a home run for me.
100%, right out of the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually one of my favorite movies, like, of all time. I was telling you in the pre-show, I own it on VHS, I own it on DVD, and I own it in digital. And I probably watch it half a dozen times a year. And one of the things that made me realize my partner was going to be like my person is that it's one of his favorite movies too. And I have to say that, he's not a Madonna fan, but he loves that movie, and we can sit and quote dialogue together before they say it. And it's just a wonderful movie.
Yeah, it really has it all. I mean, it has relationships, it has, what women kind of go through, what women historically have gone through. And it also has some humor and some good one-liners. So, I mean, I think it's one, and Madonna herself does a wonderful job, and a good Madonna and Rosie pairing. Love it. Always love it.
And I think you both, keyed in on what makes the movie so amazing is that, one, it's just a good movie. Penny Marshall directed a really great story movie.
Right.
Then it's also a really great baseball movie. Like if you weren't even like watching it for Madonna, it's just a great story about women's baseball and like in a historical preservation type of way where, if you didn't know that women's baseball actually existed, it's like, here's a really great film that talks about it. And then it's also just, there's some really touching emotional moments in it. Like that movie, I mean, I rewatched it over the weekend so I'd be fresh in my mind. And I was bawling all over again. Over it. At multiple points through the movie, I was just crying again.
I feel like it's one of those movies that gets more emotional for you as you get older.
Yep.
I find like the older I get, the more it like tugs at my gut in ways that surprises me. Like I remember when it first came out, it got a lot of criticism. The one thing it got criticism for was that it only had that one scene where the stadiums are segregated and the African American lady comes out and she throws the ball past first base straight to Dottie. But watching it this weekend, I was like, well, for a movie that came out in 1992, it showed a surprising amount of self-awareness about the topic that it was covering and the reality at the time. And just, I was like, oh, wow, I really appreciate that it did that 31 years ago. So it was great.
Yeah, I agree. And I was actually just going to touch on that. It's just as you age, I think you're more aware of, your own aging, so to speak. You're aware that things don't stay the same, that everything is sort of constantly in motion, and that you find yourself, if you have the opportunity to look back, and do you feel fondly about some things? Do you feel still some of the sadness that you felt when whatever it was happened? And can you still feel the joy of winning or almost winning in some cases?
It always seemed to me that when the Peaches lose the World Series at the end of the movie, and
spoiler alert,
and Dottie and Kit are saying farewell at the buses, and it's like a mule, nag, and they give each other looks, and then they get on the bus. Is that the last time they see each other until the reunion?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think so. But like, it's sort of when they show up at the reunion not at the reunion, at the Baseball Hall of Fame groundbreaking for them, it sort of feels as if they haven't seen each other in a really long time.
Yeah.
No, the Kit's grandkids are like, you hear them in some of the background dialogue, like yelling, calling out Aunt Dottie. So they clearly recognize her and yada. I just think, I suspect this is a writer talking about context clues that are dropped in the script. My impression read of that was that Dottie had not seen Kit since, oh my God, I'm totally forgetting the husband's name, since
Bob.
Bill Pullman died. Bob. Yeah. Since Bob had passed away, which had been, quite a while. So it was a big emotional moment in that the shared experience they had was bringing them back together after a period of intense grief where Dottie was pretty much staying in the room upstairs at her daughter's house.
Yeah.
And while they do sort of end on that, I guess, peace note, right, where there's, they've resumed a little bit of their back and forth, there's still some contention regarding baseball, because she does say something like, no, you didn't, you're not sorry about what you did there.
Yeah. Well, but I think that was the establishment of their sister relationship. That's what I think. That was the anchor of the movie. The relationship those two have.
I agree. I guess I'm just thinking of like sister to sister. There's always even though you might, get along or things, you move on from a disagreement, it's just always that nugget. It still sits there. There's something always there. At least it's like that in my relationship with my sister, where, that those things never really fully are
The competition.
resolved. Yeah, it's partly that, but also just random disagreements, as sisters.
Well, so let's talk about the movie as a whole. Like Penny Marshall, I mean, she just did such a fantastic job at wrangling this amazing cast. You've got phenomenal actors in this movie, even some of the supporting cast that we really don't get to focus on a lot, who have big parts. They were amazing. Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, Lori Petty, they're the three huge stars. I mean, obviously, Madonna was a name because of her music.
Right.
And Rosie O'Donnell was a name because of her comedy. But I really felt that like the stars of the movie is Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, and Lori Petty, because they were huge Hollywood stars at the time.
Right.
Well, this was Lori Petty's debut movie, wasn't it?
She had one right before.
Yes, she had like a small movie right before this, but this was kind of like supposed to be her big breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was
This
not
was only like her
really,
second movie.
Yeah. Hold on, let me.
How did I know Lori Petty before this movie? I felt like I knew her. Maybe I just thought I knew her. And
that could just be the image that you have of her. I think because we all associate her with like maybe Tank Girl or something. Point Break. That was what she was in.
Oh,
before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God! So Tank Girl came after A League of Their Own.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Tank Girl came 3 years later.
Yeah.
She was actually in Cadillac Man and Point Break before she got her big break in A League of Their Own.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that Tank Girl came after A League of Their Own. That's like, sorry, Lori.
Yeah. Well, she's not been doing too much lately. As far as she may be doing other side projects or other projects, but as far as big roles, that's not really her thing.
It's also interesting. The writers of this movie wrote Splash, also a Tom Hanks vehicle. Mm-hmm. They also wrote Parenthood and City Slickers together.
Okay.
And they both worked on Happy Days.
Well, that makes total sense because I absolutely love that good old Penny Marshall, a.k.a. Laverne from Laverne and Shirley, recruited so much like of her Laverne and Shirley world into this movie.
Yes.
So Bubbaloo and Lowell also wrote for one season of Laverne and Shirley. They were writers on staff. So these writers have a long history with Penny Marshall.
Right. And so that we had Eddie Mecca, R.I.P. Eddie Mecca, who played Carmine Ragusa on Laverne and Shirley. He was Madonna's dance partner in the bar, in the swing.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
And then also David Lander, who played Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley. He's the announcer at Racine Bells.
With the famous Hooch echo. I freaking love that every time. Marla Hooch. Gosh, sorry, I can't not do that. It's too much.
Hey, mate.
What?
Come here and look at this.
Wait a second, Doris.
I can't wait much longer, so get up. So I ain't done yet. Watch this.
Look at it.
Yeah, you can't do it, mate.
Do it. I can do it. Yeah, how long you been working on it, Doris?
That took me about a year. Not counting them 2 months I was in the hospital. That hit me right in the head. Bam.
Really?
Yep.
Your head's not your behind, because that looks really swollen.
Hey, what the heck kind of a thing is that?
I'm joking. Okay. I'm
funny.
nervous, all right? What are you looking at?
Yeah, what are you looking at?
Nothing.
That's right, nothing.
Oh, these girls gonna be in the league? You wish.
You do wish.
They're gonna have 16 girls to a team.
That's right.
64 girls.
Yeah, what are you, a genius?
They got over 100 girls here, so, some of you are gonna have to go home.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, Doris.
Those people are jerks.
What do you mean, some of us? Do it. Okay, some of them are going home.
Hey, how did you do that? excuse me. Hey, you want that?
But Geena Davis was the oldest cast member at the time.
Is that right?
Yeah. And just looking stunning, though. Oh, my
Gorgeous.
goodness. She
Yeah.
rocked that old-fashioned hair, and that makeup was flawless.
I loved the styling. I mean, it's just totally fit. Everyone looked so good in it. Madonna. I just, like
Even Rosie. I mean, everybody, like they all did. I mean, they even turn Hooch's character, into something so beautiful. It's great. I love that. And, thinking about how there's these little hints of actors. I don't know. I only finished it today, but because I had to do it in parts. There's one in the World Series. One of the hitters from the opposite team is Téa Leoni. I'm pretty
she's
sure.
all through the movie.
Yeah,
Is she really? Oh my
She
gosh.
shows up in the charm school sequence. Like, she gets more face time than some of the actual supporting players with dialogue.
I
Because
can't
we
believe I didn't
joke about it
recognize.
when we watch it. It's like, there's Téa. You literally could do a shots game with there's Téa in A League of Their Own, and you would be wasted before you even get to the World Series. It's not
That's
even
amazing.
funny.
I didn't even notice. I guess I should have watched a little closer the first time, I guess. But
Which is hilarious because then, she has her big break like a couple years later
right
on that.
after
first,
that.
Yeah, the first TV show she had on Fox with Holland Taylor. And it's just like, oh, wow. There's like, and then Anne Ramsey went on to be on Mad About You, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But Tracy, her Penny's daughter, right? Tracy Reiner was Penny Marshall and Rob Reiner's daughter. Like, she never really did much after that. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk specifically about Madonna's performance, because I know we've said,
Flawless.
wow, she's great, right? But I think that there's something to, the character, first of all, is really great for Madonna, particularly, in some of her brash sort of one-off statements. But there's a very important part where she's upset about the possibility of this, it's just, they're going to take this whole girls baseball thing and just toss it out. Like, it's not going to work. And she's just beside herself, upset about how she doesn't want to go back to what she was doing before, which is a certain type of
her go-go dancing.
performing. Yeah.
Burlesque.
She's just so engaging. And it's hard for me to believe, when people can see these moments, and besides just that one, but there's a lot of parts of, where she's emoting in the film, which are just without words, right? You can still see that coming through. I think she did a wonderful job as an actor in this film.
Why? What's the matter?
Well, Mae, we're not doing so well. Harvey and the other owners think they've made a mistake. They're talking about closing you down.
What are you talking about? Closing what down? Close us down here?
Explain yourself.
What kind of a thing is that you say?
What does that mean?
Well, they're businessmen.
So?
No profit, no product.
Wait a minute. And what am I supposed to do, huh? Go back to taxi dancing?
10 cents so some slop can sweat all over me? I'm never doing that again. So you go back there and you tell old rich Mr. Chocolate Man that he ain't closing me down. It's all right, man. They can't keep up.
I think that moment you're talking about, Liberty, was the most honest, dramatic acting that she'd ever done.
Yeah.
And it resonated. And that is, I think, because of that, you can see other places in other movies where you're like, oh, yeah, it wasn't working. And it makes you wonder why did it work here and not elsewhere? And I do think it was like a safety thing, and the fact that it was a female director and it was a totally trusting environment. And she had Rosie and other people there that she got along with. We know all the stories. Like, they did all those 30th anniversary talks last year that are all on YouTube if anybody wants to go check them out. And they just talked about what an amazing set it was. I mean, imagine how different that might have turned out if Deborah Winger had actually played Dottie instead of Geena Davis.
Right.
But, yeah, I always think of that moment as like a pure moment of like honesty, and it totally worked. And you're like, oh yeah, there's the thing, there's the potential. But also it was fun to see her portray like this classic sort of like Italian archetype and really play up like her own family roots with the dark hair and just sort of like the styling and the attitude and the energy. I loved it. It was wonderful.
She was sort of playing like a tough girl, but underneath is it all tough? You know, she's putting on more bravado than she's really got underneath because she comes from
look how
a bad
she
situation.
helped Shirley read. She helped Shirley learn how to
that.
read.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite
moment.
scenes in the movie.
I love that.
When Evelyn turns around.
Milky, white. May, what are you teaching her? Hey, she's reading, isn't she?
Mono. Come on. Off and grabbed her milky white.
May, what you giving her to read? Oh, what difference does it make? She's reading, okay? That's the important thing. Now go away. Go. Shoot. Go ahead, Shirley. You're doing good.
Thanks, babe. Okay. Milky white breast.
It gets really good after that. Like, delivery boy walks in. What you doing?
Right.
It gets better, and then they turn the page. Like it's just so. I love that there's heart for a lot of the characters in that movie, and I think that's ultimately the women's relationships, not just Dottie and Kit, just the women in general. Is you can really see that the baseball camp that Penny Marshall made them all like learn how to play baseball, and they had to go through training camp, I think, for 2 weeks prior to the start of the movie. Yeah. I think it shows that they came together as a team, as a group of individuals. And I think that's what resonates, and that's what we see from Madonna's performance, is that, you know, Madonna has always been a solo artist. And I think she always loved having Nikki and Donna by her side because it was like a Madonna girl group. You know, she had support. She didn't have to carry it all herself. And I think when she was around all these other women, there's that one beautiful moment when Mae is on base and Doris is on base and Dottie gets up and hits a home run. And so Mae's at the plate and she's like, come on, Doris, come on. And then Dottie crosses the home plate and Madonna looks so euphorically happy. Like she doesn't look like she's acting. It's just like, it's this spunky, fun little sister Madonna. And it's so cute. I love seeing her in this movie.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah, no, it totally works. And you get a little bit of everything from the performance, like the bravado, the comedy, the drama. And then, of course, before we leave talking about her performance, we have to talk about the dance sequence.
I know.
Of course. I mean,
one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Pure
Talk
Madonna.
about a moment just to show off. Part of me, I would love to find out if that was even in the original script, or Penny Marshall was like, "We need this segment to let her show off," you know.
That's curious, right? I mean, because I would love to see, by the way, more swing dancing from Madonna.
Yeah,
she was fantastic. Absolutely,
she's
fantastic.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's where the dance training paid. I mean, all those flips and dips and swings and like acrobatics and like just wonderful. I was like, I mean, it serves no purpose to the plot other than like the little character beats because, you know, Kit is getting frisky and of course we get a character development beat with Hooch and Nelson, which is just so freaking funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love that part. But and then we get can't we do both? Oh my God, that stupid scene. I'm like, oh, please don't let the crazy people on the internet like come for this movie because of that scene. But Yeah, just wonderful.
Oh my God, that in the car.
Yeah, the kid. Can't we do both?
Oh my God, I thought that. Well, I mean, it's just funny, like I just thought it was
stupid. But if you grew up rural like I did, you're like, well, that's kind of how things happen. But oh Lord.
No, I mean, that dance scene at the Suds bucket is pure Madonna. I mean, I love when they're outside of the bus, but Evelyn, I'm going to have to kill your son. And then Madonna's running around with a bat trying to hit Evelyn's child. Like, that's
the best is when, who is it? Is it Doris that yells, use mine, it's heavier.
Yeah. That's it. Quick.
Come on.
I told you you're too young to drive.
I will. Watch. Evelyn! I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to kill your son! No, May! You just... Get over him, May! Come on, May, go! Don't use Marla to turn you!
It's just so good. And then I love that who was the woman, she looks like the wig. Yes.
Yeah, she gets the face full of dirt. Oh, poor Miss Cuthbert. That was not her day
for her. She gets slapped in the face with dirt.
The barbs.
And then May poisons her. And May, what did you give her? I don't know. It's working. But
doesn't matter. It's working.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that they're all like smoking at the edge of the bus. And they're like, we're going to the place called the Suds Bucket. And we're going to poison Miss Cuthbert.
Oh my gosh.
I love how they're all conspiring just so they can go out and have a night out. Like, it's funny.
It is funny. But, a lot of this movie is like a testament to how it's sort of feminism, right? Where we've got women who are now put in a sort of, they're already playing baseball. They had to have been like recruited, so to speak, from like their local teams, I suppose, or whatever they were playing at it back home. But now they're thrust into this new role, and yet they're still sort of treated like,
second-class citizens.
Yeah, and or it's hokey, and we still got to make them sexy, right? Because it's women. We don't want to watch, women in typical baseball uniforms. We have to see them in short little skirts and
dirt in the skirt.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I think that this is one of the reasons why I think that this is such a good role for Madonna, specifically because she represents a lot of what women want to do, but are somehow always sort of pegged into some other thing. And it's still relevant 30 something years later. It's still, and even maybe more so today, dare I say, but, could we do it now? Could we have a women's, baseball league? I mean, softball, okay. We have, like almost every school has a women's softball, but baseball.
Well, I mean, I love that about the movie is that, like, as I was rewatching it for this, I thought how bizarre it was that women playing baseball professionally was being looked at as a joke, that it wasn't being taken seriously. And the only reason we were doing it was because the men were going off to fight the war and we still needed to entertain people. And I thought, why is it that, like, how sad it is that still in sports, it's still men. I mean, yeah, we have like women's baseball and women in tennis and women gymnastics and Olympics and whatnot, but like, there's no professional women's baseball teams that you can go watch on television at night, or like go see. Like, the Philadelphia Phillies are all men, and that's all, like, there's no women on that team. And I'm like, that just seems so archaic and bizarre. It's just weird.
But it's still the case. I mean, I think, and it's funny too, just regarding baseball, this is sort of an aside from talking about the feminine aspect, but at the time, baseball, when these women are playing it, this is the national pastime, right? This is the thing that people love. And in the 90s, I think it still kind of was. People really had a reverence for baseball. But by and large today, there are big baseball fans and people. I love to watch my Astros. I know you like the Phillies, Stefan. And we had a little bit of a thing last year, but we'll talk about that later.
Just a smidge.
But I don't think it is as, much today a national pastime or something that people really get a kick out of. I say I'm a baseball fan and people are like, oh, boring. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I don't care for American football, but, you know.
And there were some fantastic baseball montages in this movie. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
so shocked that Penny Marshall, who directs really sweet, relationship movies, was able to do so there was a couple things that I thought she did fantastically in this movie. Those baseball montages of the Peaches playing baseball and whatnot, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The newsreel recreations where they were like, women playing baseball. What will this actually happen? Oh, here's Darla Hooch. Here's Evelyn blah, blah. And they were sort of really doing a fantastic job of recreating those newsreels to make it look. I mean, that's how they actually look. It's kind of like you watch it now and you're like, oh, this is just hokey movie stuff. But I'm like, no, this is how it was. That's how they delivered the news back then.
Well, and the whole spiel that woman gives about what women in baseball
on the radio.
What? Yes. And it sounded like it could have been on
women
the radio
playing
yesterday.
Baseball. It's going to wreck the feminist, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's just it hit me very hard. The first part of the movie really, I think that's why I had to pause and take a break, because I was like, when was this again? Because I don't, and I mean, as a Texan, I think sounds about now.
I do love, though, that David Strathern's character as Ira Lowenstein, he obviously, in the middle of the movie decides he's going to take over the league from Mr. Harvey because he believes in them. And I thought his character was really pivotal in the movie because he's the one who stops seeing them as a product, as a joke. He sees them as people, as athletes, as individuals, and wants to keep encouraging that, wants to keep that going. And I love that at the very end, they have him be the one to cut the ribbon to open the women's baseball wing.
So great.
It was just they had some really great callbacks around there. I mean, again, another one. I'm going through my notes as I'm looking, and again, there's sort of the overshadowing of the war during this movie. Right. So, the reason why they're all being brought together is because their men are overseas. And this is, I think one of the most devastating moments in the movie is when the War Department telegram shows up and you really think it's going to be Geena Davis, and the way that they frame it and the way that they have her sitting down next to, who is it that she's sitting? It's not Helen. It's
Tracy Reiner.
Oh, and
Betty Spaghetti.
Yeah, Betty Spaghetti. Thank you. And how they frame it. Penny Marshall frames it so smart, where you're as the camera's coming in on Geena Davis, they're both sort of sitting down next to each other. And then the telegram goes to Betty, and Betty just crumbles. And then it cuts to Geena Davis crying because, she thought it was coming to her. She thought she was going to, hear that her husband died. And that's, it's such a beautiful moment that then Tom Hanks comes in. And I love Tom Hanks's character, how he evolves over the course of the movie from just being pissed off that has to teach girls, or coach girls. The women, women don't play ball. They're who you go home with after the game. And then there he is comforting Betty, as she's crumbling from hearing about the death of her husband. And then I love that moment where they take Betty out of the room, and you see the whole room of them just devastated over what just happened. And Tom Hanks is like, okay, let's go. We've got a game to play. Just picks it. That's the morale boost that they need to get out there and go. Let's talk about favorite characters. Ben, who would one of your favorite characters in the movie be?
Are we talking about other than All-the-way Mae?
Correct. Other than Madonna.
Oh, it's Dottie. I thought Geena Davis was fantastic. She was like the gravity at the center of all these kooky, eccentric characters. So props to her for playing like the even keeled center of gravity in the movie. And then special props to John Lovitz. Will you shut up? Like, oh my God. The first 20 minutes of that movie, he gets all those amazing one-liners. I had no idea who he was because I never watched Saturday Night Live.
Oh, how funny.
And like, so for me, John Lovitz, it's always a league of their own. 100%.
Hey, cowgirls, see that grass? Don't eat it.
Does that hurt? God,
Liberty, what about you? Who's a favorite character of yours in the movie?
Well, I mentioned Rosie's character, Doris. I just love the sort of, she's got this sort of history, right? She kind of mentions her boyfriend there and that he treats her like garbage, but, boys didn't, come to her, so to speak, or they just sort of treated her like she was nothing. 100% can relate. I mean, as far as my personal history goes, I think that I understand what she feels there. And I relate to her in that respect. And I love that little moment at the end where her dad's going to buy her a steak dinner. I just think it's so cute.
Yeah. And her and Madonna have great scenes together.
Yeah. I mean, chemistry is, why did they never make another movie?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, why didn't we get like a Mae Doris spinoff after this or something? It's just,
I didn't need a spinoff. That buddy comedy cop movie that Demi and Madonna were going to do should have been Rosie and
with
Madonna.
The two of them.
Instead of Rosie going off and doing that awful another stakeout and Exit to Eden. Like,
or the Flintstones.
Oh my God.
How did I never know about this Madonna Demi Moore cop buddy movie?
That was in the works
so talked about. I know, I was dying for it to happen.
Yeah. Because Demi Moore was up for Dottie first, but she got pregnant. And so then they hired Deborah Winger, who got fired and then publicly said she didn't want to do it because she didn't like Madonna. And then Geena Davis swooped in at the last minute. Thank God, because honestly, Geena Davis was perfect because she was like tall and statuesque and fit all the qualities. I'm like, how was Deborah Winger going to do this?
Yeah, I can't see it. I can't see it.
It just wouldn't have worked. I don't understand how that was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I always say, everything happens as it's meant to, even when you're not fully sure of, what's happening at the time.
Yeah,
so.
You're right there. You are right there, Liberty.
So I think for me, one of my favorite characters in the movie has got to be Evelyn. Like,
oh my God,
she's got such wonderful moments throughout the entire film. I mean, obviously, one of the most iconic moments of this entire film is because of Evelyn.
That's true.
Hey, Evelyn, can I ask you a question? You got a moment? Which team do you play for?
Well, I'm a peach.
Well, I was just wondering, because I couldn't figure out why you'd throw home when we've got a 2-run lead. You let the tying run get on second, and we lost the lead because of you. Now you start using your head. That's not love that's 3 feet above your ass. Are you crying?
No.
Are you crying? Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Why don't you leave her alone, Jimmy?
Oh, you zip it, Doris. Rogers Hornsby was my manager, and he called me a talking pile of pig shit. And that was when my parents drove all the way down from Michigan to see me play the game. And did I cry? No. And you know why?
No.
Because there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball. No crying. What's the matter, Jimmy? What? She's crying, sir.
And then that sort of becomes a callback that they keep going to, like seeing her and obviously Stillwell Angel, like the fact that she talks Jimmy into bringing him because he's so hungover, he doesn't even care. And it's the
totally
two
nuts.
of them. The two of them are bonkers in this movie, and it's hysterical.
But then when she doesn't show up at the end,
heartbreak.
That's when I start to lose it.
Exactly. They tug so many heartstrings throughout this film, and when you you see Stillwell at the Baseball Hall of Fame, and Dottie's asking him, "How's your mom?"
And she looks around for her.
Yeah, where's your mom? Mom died. And I'm like, oh no.
I know, that's such a sucker punch. That was such a, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
good writing, but a sucker punch.
Yeah. But can we please, for a moment, talk about the brilliant casting of old Dottie?
Yeah.
When I saw this movie in the theater the very first time, I swore up and down that was Geena Davis in prosthetic makeup. And it's not. And I was shocked to learn that it was just Geena Davis dubbing over her voice for that character. But I was I'm still mesmerized they look so, like, that looks like how Geena Davis would be aging, like when she's in her
all of them
70s.
Though, really, like there's a lot of resemblance to as well as for Mae's character.
Yeah.
The one who's sort of the blonde, who's
Helen. I'm married a plastic surgeon.
Oh, she's really good too.
She's so happy about it.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't we all be? Damn.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, all those. Well, and then just even one past further is I love that Penny Marshall weaves in the real world element of it, that she brings in these women who were a part of the women's baseball league back then, and that you get to see them in the beginning, and then at the end, that fantastic end credit sequence of them playing baseball. And I mean, that one line where the umpire is like, strike, and the one woman turns around and she's like, that was a ball, that was clearly outside, and he's like, yesterday it might have been a ball, tomorrow it might be a ball, but today it's a strike. And I mean, just seeing the passion of those women running and hitting, and I'm like, good for them. I hope I'm that way in my 70s.
And there are little things just in the filming part, right, where you see, like, in that scene that you just described, there's like she kicks dirt on the umpire's shoe. Like, these are little, like, behavioral things that happen in baseball that if you aren't really a baseball fan, you might not know. I guess Penny Marshall was a baseball fan. I'm suspecting.
Oh, totally. Yeah. She loved baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
What are some of our favorite lines?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I can't pick.
Obviously, the bosoms come flying out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But wait, the Madonna line or the Doris line?
I like Madonna.
Because I like Doris.
What she responds, like, you think there's a man in the world in the country who's not seen your bosoms yet? Like, that doesn't exist. And silly enough, right? In a few months, that might have been the actual case. But yeah.
What if at a key moment in the game, my uniform bursts open and oops, my bosoms come flying out? That might draw a crowd, right?
You think there are men in this country who ain't seen your bosoms? Thank you.
I love some of the big lines. You're like, I mean, obviously, Evelyn's. There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball. Like, Tom Hanks is brilliant in that scene, in his delivery.
He is. I have to admit, probably mine is when John Lovitz's character is talking to the other salesperson on the train. This is terrible, but he's like, if I had your job, I'd kill myself. And he walks off, and I'm just like, oh, he's saying what so many of us have thought so many times in life in those situations. He was such an id. He's such an id.
Well, I think one of there's so many beautiful comedic lines throughout the film, but the one line that I always thought was so poignant and so eloquent was at the very end when they're all packing on the bus to go to the World Series, and Geena Davis, Dottie's getting in the car with Bob, and Tom Hanks comes over to her and he's like, where are you going? But I love that Tom Hanks has that beautiful interchange with Dottie, where she says, it just got too hard. And then he's like, it was supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. It's the hard that makes it great.
Chicken shit, Dottie. You want to go back home to Oregon and make 100 babies? Great. I'm in no position to tell anyone how to live. But sneaking out like this, quitting, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Baseball is what gets inside you. It's what lights you up. You can't deny that.
It just got too hard.
It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
And I have forever loved that line because it's just so true. You know, like if there's anything out there that you do in life that you're always like, why is this so hard? I just want to, I just want it to be successful at this, or I want to be famous for this, and I've always loved it. It always spoke true to me because
it feels very American.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very American sentiment.
Yeah.
In context, and then watching it later, I was like, do people still feel that way?
Well, and I always thought too, like how beautiful that Madonna sort of echoes that sentiment with Easy Ride years later, where, she even, I want the good life, but I don't want an easy ride. And I was like, yeah, totally. I've always loved Easy Ride. And I love that that's the message, is that, you want to be somewhere, but if you didn't have to work hard for it, you didn't earn it. It doesn't feel the same.
All right, let's talk about the wardrobe.
Yeah.
I mean, Madonna has some gorgeous outfits.
Uh-huh.
It was too tight, that dress. That's so funny when Rosie's like, or Doris is like, you can't wear that. It's too tight. I'm not planning on wearing it that long.
That's right.
But it doesn't even look that tight. So, okay. I'll just believe that.
No, the outfits that were tailored to.
Sure.
I mean, it was so beautiful. Lori Petty and Geena Davis and Madonna, I thought, really wore those outfits amazing.
I was trying to pay attention to who was in flats and who was in heels in the different scenes.
Oh,
too.
interesting.
Like Geena Davis is in like Mary Jane's and flat shoes the whole movie because she's like 6
so
feet
tall, yeah,
something like. Yeah, even Bill Pullman was like barely. They probably had him in some Tom Cruise lifts just to get him to be like almost as tall as her. But yeah, just wonderful.
Mae's in Oxford's the whole movie pretty much, and I was like, ooh, I have some of those. Unlike her, right? Even in the dance sequence, she's in those flat shoes, and I was happy to see that. It's very safe. She should do that more.
Mm-hmm.
She was in heels in the scene with that you were just quoting, wasn't she? In the red and beige dress.
Probably.
Yeah, I think she's in like some little red kitten heels in that.
I don't remember seeing the shoes.
All the hats, they all had like the pretty hats and stuff. It was just wonderful.
I mean, I was there mostly. I was so in love with the looks. Just I love the era anyway. I used to, try to do these sort of pin curls and finger, sort of waves, and I love that they're on the bus, primping themselves, and still, the femininity is always there.
Yeah.
And I just love the makeup. I love those classic red lips that always make appearances. And I love the soft hair. Just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Didn't Geena Davis talk later about that her hair fell out after shooting A League of Their Own?
I wondered about that because in the very last scene there where her and her sister are having a little like chat in the lobby of the stadium, her hair actually looks a different color. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just like the lighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never know what could have been.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was just saying in the other scene where she was earlier with her husband, like reuniting with him, it looked much lighter, not as red, almost blonde. We
were trying to figure out which scenes were her hair and which ones were maybe wigs, but a lot of it looked like her hair, and it had been like they tried to dye it and they just couldn't get it like the shade they wanted to, and they just fried it, and then it was hairsprayed into oblivion. So, but it looked good. So for the art, you suffer,
Right.
If
And
it
Madonna
wasn't
with dark
hard,
hair.
everybody would do it. Right. And then Madonna's in there with like probably her, at that time, probably her natural hair color.
Right.
She probably enjoyed that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. Low maintenance because she just had like a center part and it was like floopy and just doing whatever. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it looked good. It looked so good.
And if you want to find the Rockford Peach costume, you can do that. It's on Amazon.com.
Yep.
I should start getting a storefront and like put all of these Madonna related items in there. Yeah.
What did we think about the ending of the movie with Dottie dropping the ball? So do we think she really drops the ball for Kit, or did Kit just knock it out of her hand?
I think she knocked it out of her hand.
Really?
She did not throw that game.
I've always thought she threw that game for Kit.
No way, no how. As a oldest sibling, we would never do that.
I'm going to tell you why. I think that moment when she sees Kit devastated and crying because, Kit pitched to her sister. I mean, how brilliant the storytelling is that they have them on the same team and then they find the way to separate them at the very end. In the moment when it matters the most in the World Series, they now pit Kit and Dottie against each other. And I'm like, oh my God, that's such a brilliant moment to have them, like, just when you think it couldn't get any more competitive between them, they're competing on opposite teams to who's going to win the World Series. And yeah, I always thought because Dottie saw Kit crying that she was like, I'm going to drop it.
The whole point of the story is that Kit overcomes her own insecurities and Dottie becomes comfortable with being the competitor. And in finding her comfort, she loses nonetheless, which is an important lesson for Dottie to learn.
True.
Right?
Okay.
Think about it all through the movie, the splits, the jumps, the fancy catches, all of it, the whole experience comes easy for Dottie. Dottie never struggles other than feeling guilty about her sister's insecurities. And then when she finally realizes that her sister has then developed the skills and the personhood and overcome those insecurities and can hit the high and fast one, then there's no way she's just going to give it to her. She realizes, oh, crap, I have the drive to this too. That's why she comes back for the last game. And there's just no way. There's no way she threw the game.
Okay, Ben, as a Gemini, I am happy to see your side of the story as well. So although I will still look at that as, I think she threw it. I like your argument, and I will rewatch this movie thinking in that perspective.
You have to watch the movie thinking Dottie never had to struggle. Like, literally, that is the first time she had to work for what she thought she was going to have happen to her, and she failed. And it's an important lesson for her. And in that failure is how she's able to truly let go and let her sister go off and become her own person. Because then think about who she is in the future. And she's hiding out in the bedroom sad.
Right. I'm not going to go. Right? I'm not going to go.
Yeah. Which is who all through the rest of the movie, you would have thought Kit would suffer failure and become this person. And like Kit is showing up and she's like looking snatched in her 60s and like got all these like kids and running around looking like, junior grandma that just went to JCPenney and bought a new outfit for this. So yeah.
I don't know. I'm on the fence just because, and I think that that's purposeful for the story.
Oh, totally. I think they want you to be able to see whoever you relate to the most. Yeah.
And then you can sort of decide on your own what you think is the reality. I know that as the oldest sibling who, despite, all of the things that my sister and my brother do that, make me want to
furious,
call myself adopted. I think
take them to the
I would still do those things. Like I would throw a game. I would throw, I would take the hit for them, I guess, basically. Even though maybe they don't deserve it. And it's partly because you love them and you want to see them succeed, even when it will come at a cost to you. So yeah, it is an important lesson for Dottie to learn, but it doesn't come without a heavier cost than just the lesson. I think that, then she's done. Really, she also knows she's done with baseball, right? I mean, she knows that
that was the end of it. Yeah,
that's the end of it.
Again, on the fence. I don't know.
I had read that. So obviously, the baseball league is based on the real life baseball league that actually existed, and the Rockford Peaches were actually the most successful team in the league. They had been out of the all the time that that the league existed. The Rockford Peaches, I think, went to the World Series and won 4 times out of, which is more than any of the other teams.
There's a great documentary about a couple of ladies who actually played on the Rockford Peaches and then became partners for life. It's an absolutely beautiful documentary on Netflix, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it right now, but it was completely amazing, and I recommend it to everybody. Should we wrap up this discussion and talk about the music?
I was going to say the real peach, right? The cherry on top, if you will, is the gorgeous ballad, This Used to Be My Playground.
Before we get to that, we should mention there's a couple of new isn't there like 2 Carole King songs in the soundtrack?
Yes. The opening song is Carole King.
Carole King. And then the song we really want to talk about was not on the soundtrack because Warner Brothers was being Warner Brothers at the time.
So stupid. I know.
So weird. I always wondered if it had something to do with the newly signed the Maverick Records deal or something. And yada.
There was some sort of contractual weird bullshit that happened because of it. But a song that played over the end credits, that beautiful end credits scene. Madonna's This Used to Be My Playground, written and produced by her and Shep Pettibone while they were working on finishing up the erotica sessions. I love this song so hard. It's such a beautiful Madonna song. It's a shame that she's never performed it live anywhere. But it also then gets a great music video as well.
Yes.
I mean,
went to #1 for a week,
and deservedly so because.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because it fits the movie so well lyrically and sort of the instrumentation is very. I mean, Shep Pettibone was not known for his ballads, but it's got his like synths, and it was the first time he had really done anything with live instrumentation and orchestration, which brought back Jeremy Lubbock, who did a lot of work on I'm Breathless. But it's always been interesting to me that lyrically, while it fits the movie, it also fit the time in which it came out. Because I have always listened to the song as almost like a in memoriam to all the people who were dying of AIDS in 1992. I mean, which was the year that the most amount of Americans died of AIDS was 1992. We lost the most men to AIDS that year, and it's almost like a companion track to end this life, and it could have fit on erotica, sort of on that side too, but the storytelling that goes on with it totally fits with the nostalgia and sort of the framing device around the movie, because the main story is a flashback.
Yeah.
And the song kind of functions to conclude that flashback when it starts to play right before the credits commence, and just great lyrics, just wonderful.
Well, and I always loved that the version that was released to radio and the music video had less lyrics than the version that we hear in the movie. And so we had heard the song before the movie had come out, and then you get to hear this different chorus or different verse on the movie version. And I always just loved that there was like that type of like different versions of, it's always fun when there's different versions of a Madonna song out there.
Well, they had to make the credits version long enough to cover the credits.
Yeah.
And then there was the radio edit for the single and the video.
Yes.
It was still weird that it showed up on the Olympics album versus
and
at the same. And what's kooky is that like Warner Brothers was like, oh, because we don't want to license our big artists to other record labels, and yet Supernatural was on Red Hot and Dance with the 3 George Michael songs at the exact same time too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, you're talking out both sides of your mouth, Warner Brothers. Like, get it together. But
yeah, gorgeous song. I mean, Madonna sounds beautiful. I always loved the video. It's very Madonna, but also very different from Madonna. The actual turning of the pages of the photo album and the different Madonnas in the pictures and all the different setups. But then we also do see shots of the movie, which is fun to sort of like harken back to that time. And it's such a wonderful song. I'm glad that she put it on Something to Remember, so that way we actually have it on a Madonna album.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, the song came out at a very hard time for me. My grandfather passed away that summer. So anecdotally, just think like I linked it to that for a long time. So I really couldn't listen to it until it came out on Something to Remember, like with reception, so to speak, where I felt that I could finally like, okay, I'll accept it that you did this song, and it's a song that I didn't, really couldn't listen to for a long time.
It's a sad song. I mean,
it's a sad song, and it's also, of course, it fit as so many Madonna songs do lyrically at whatever time of my life. I don't know how she does that, but she does it very poignantly. And then this song vocally for hers is just such a lower register. So it's not an easy song to sing. When I sing it, obviously it's hard because I'll get, choked up a bit, but because it is such a touching, and of course, just watching it with the film or hearing it sort of at the end of the film where I'm like, I'd already been crying.
Yeah.
When there's no crying in baseball, there's clearly plenty of crying in baseball when you hear This Used to Be My Playground or attach that to it. But I love how simplistic, at least to me, the melody is. Yeah. And yet there's parts of the song that sort of in the verses where she's, there's some sort of pauses that she makes that are almost breathtaking, I think. And then a note change where I'm like, I don't know. It's just, it sort of speak, and I'm sure that listeners might, understand what I'm saying without my eloquence here, but there's the relationship to the sadness and also to the situation or to the film or whatever you relate it to. We all know the feeling of lose something or lose a special time in your life, and then everything is going to change. And you don't really want to look back, but you always will, despite not really wanting to. It's just gorgeous, haunting to me.
Yeah, a number one hit.
This used to be my playground. Oh, I can't do it. I'm going to cry.
Come on, Stefan. We'll do the backing vocals. No, we won't.
No, we won't.
We will not be doing that.
Wishing you were here with me.
Oh,
so such a maudlin finish, and on that really like guttural note. I love it. It's so wonderful.
And she has so many people at that time in her life. Just what you were mentioning before, Ben, that she could be thinking of. That she could be remembering.
I mean, her mother.
To me, well, I mean, the last line very much harkens to her mother or Keith or Christopher or any of them. And that's why to me,
Martin.
people are like, oh, it came out and then erotica, but I'm like, if you really listen to erotica, this does introduce a lot of the sort of, themes of at least the second half of erotica.
Yeah.
Like it's getting into that territory of like being an adult in your
Why is
mid-30s.
it so hard?
Yeah, like an adult in your 30s and shit's gotten real and you're having to think about, mortality and consequences of youth and so on and so forth. It's just crazy.
I do wish she sort of had lived there a little longer. I wish that there had been a little bit more softness for longer. I know that the greatness that is the erotica album, I would never sacrifice for any reason whatsoever, but I love this sort of soft, reflective Madonna.
Yeah,
so,
she went back to it with bedtime stories. I think then we get a richer, even probably more experimental version of it there with songs like Forbidden Love and Love Tried to Welcome Me and Sanctuary. So I mean, it's part of a through line of her work from that period, starting with like Promise to Try and then the song Something to Remember and then this one and then Why Is It So Hard and In This Life and Secret Garden and then jumping forward to that second half of Bedtime Stories. Like we got almost a decade worth of those kind of songs from her. And then she kind of went into the
See my booty get down like
well, no,
see my
she
booty get
sort
down.
of the Mer Girl sort of easy, Mer Girl Gone, Easy Ride.
A little bit more
Falling
experimental
Free
musically.
stuff. Yeah, like there's like two lines of that, and this is solidly in the middle of the first one that we see her sort of stretching a little bit. So
Well, and
I
of
love
course,
this song.
I think it also sort of evokes some of the feelings like Live to Tell might have given us.
Yeah.
It sort of carries through on the softness, but she's so multidimensional in that you believe every single thing that she sings in This Used to Be My Playground, and you feel it and you know it, and you want to hold her. You want to comfort her. And so, absolutely gorgeous.
You mentioned Live to Tell because we get some Live to Tell style looks in the video.
That's right.
Oh,
Although
that dress, that it's that blue floral dress that she's wearing in the field where the wind is blowing. I'm like, that's Live to Tell. That's the Live to Tell look.
We just didn't know that was the erotica hair yet. So.
Right.
Or the sex book hair.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. To be a fly on the wall those days.
My goodness. Yeah. Today I'm wearing a blue dress, just toss my hair and I'm going to lip sync this and Alec is going to go put it in this. And then tomorrow we're going to walk naked down I-95.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm going to go eat a slice of pizza with nothing on.
Yeah.
Who's up for some hitchhiking? Let's go.
I mean, oh my goodness. What a time that was.
It was a time.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for going down memory lane and talking about this with me because it's a special film, a really special film for Madonna.
Remember, everybody, you can find us on Instagram at MLVC Podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at MLVC Podcast so you never miss one of our videos. You can also donate to the show. We're on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, or consider becoming a subscriber, patron.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. Help keep the show going. Ben, Liberty, thanks for joining me in the Peaches today. It's been a fun time having another installment of our Madonna Summer Movie Series. And remember, everybody, next month, we close out the summer with probably the most looked forward to movie of our Madonna Summer Movie Series ever, Body of Evidence. I have not watched this movie in a while, and it's going to be
I bet it's been 25 years since I've watched it. Oh my God.
I've seen clips of it, but I've not sat through the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to that.
I've watched the scene where Julianne Moore slaps her a whole bunch of times because, she always gets asked about it. Anyway, we're off topic.
Yeah. So join us next month. Don't forget.
Yes. Yeah, you won't want to miss that one.
You will not. You will wish you were here with us. So.
That's right. You'll be like, this show used to be my playground, but
now it's my torture chamber. Hot wax and all.
Shh, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Oh, that's true. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.